Hey everyone, I'm rather incoherent, and this is the Leo deck I played as the main fighter in the Dream side of Dreamers. It did its job really well. It was played alongside of a main Kluver Daryl that went down the clue dropping archetype instead of difficulty 0. And I want to talk about this immediately. On the Hunt is a tech card. This can be anything. I'll talk about how it did in its role as a tech card at the end, because what it's for is kind of a spoiler. And if you haven't played Where the Gods Dwell, I don't want to talk about what this does in that scenario until I've dropped a spoiler warning. So this will be way later that I talk about why On the Hunt is in the list. This can be anything else. This can be a daring, this can be a second emergency cash, or a payday if you feel like your economy's low. This can be a handcuff, so if you want to counterattack something else, like in Innsmouth, where Deep Wind Bull's a problem. Handcuffs is good against him. There's always something else this can be. It's not the ideal 30th card unless you're specifically counterattacking Where the Gods Dwell like I was. Now, the rest of the deck, it's just a big guns flamethrower deck. I've got Contraband under Stick to the Plan instead of a Prepared for the Worst, because in my opinion, drawing the flamethrower is not the hard part, making sure it lasts long enough is. Every time I've ever put Prepared for the Worst under my Stick to the Plan, I've consistently drawn flamethrower before I played Prepared for the Worst. Even in situations where I don't have flamethrower and I could play Prepared for the Worst, I consistently don't do that. Because I'm like, alright, I have 2 flamethrowers in my deck of 18 cards, that's a 75% chance. If I draw a few more cards first, my odds go up substantially. And usually the odds are actually worse than that initially. It's like 2 flamethrowers out of like 25 cards at the start of the game when you're really considering playing Prepared for the Worst. And then additionally, Prepared for the Worst in this deck doesn't even hit my backup weapon. So the way I play and the way I pilot my decks, Prepared for the Worst never actually gets value for me. And I wasn't punished this time for not running it, so it might be right, I don't know. It's definitely more fun to play Flamethrower when you have the potential to bump it up to 7 bullets with extra ammo and double it to 14 with Contraband. I don't know how many shots of Flamethrower you need to beat any final scenario in the game. It's less than 14. Feels pretty good when you do that. Something worth mentioning anytime you talk about Leo is Charon's Obal. Any off-green character gets this card. And I mean that very literally. If you have access to green 1 and you don't take this, you've made a mistake. A part of the reason Ursula's better than other Seekers at similar power levels is because she's just up 14 experience compared to her contemporaries. And that same reason's a big part of why Leo is better than Zoey in my eyes. With most blue characters, you look at Flamethrower, you look at Stick to the Plan, you look at Stand Together, and you start making compromises. But Leo's additional free experience really helps to fill out a big guns deck much faster than other characters. But speaking of what he gets from Rogue, green cards give him some of the best economy in the game. Like, these are actually the S tier of economy cards. You really don't need much more than this. Having economy under Stick to the Plan in addition, going into Stand Together at 3, this deck has more economy than it's going to need. And that's a good thing to have, because it means you can give your Faustian bargain away. Another big selling point for off-color green as a Guardian is Leo de Luca giving you an extra action to attack. I've already covered Contraband, so I won't mention that again. Now, Brandy Gathaga is my backup weapon of choice. Why? Because every other weapon gets tossed out when you equip Flamethrower, but Brandy Gathaga doesn't. Additionally, one of the weaknesses of Flamethrower is that it cannot shoot over. You can only attack if you're engaged. Brandy Gathaga can shoot over. This is going to be a contentious statement, without risk of dealing damage. I posted a Reddit poll on this. It was like 500 votes, and it was like 55 to 45 at the end, whether or not Brandy Gathaga deals 1 damage if you miss, or 0. Now, either way, that means it excels at attacking over. Because when you attack over for 2 damage and you only hit your teammate for 1, that's way less bad. But I'm of the opinion that the way it's worded is, since if you succeed, spend 1 or 2 charges, period, that's an independent statement. And then instead of its standard damage, this attack deals 1 damage for each charge spent, period, that's an independent statement. So whether you succeed or fail, it deals charges damage. And since you fail, you don't spend charges, it deals 0 damage. But either way, it is a backup weapon that does not compete with Flamethrower for slots, that is good at attacking over, something that Flamethrower can't do. That's why it is my backup weapon of choice. It's also very low experience and a very easy way to start bumping up your deck. And since it allows you to attack with head, this is a niche, but it came up at least once, I think, for me. You can attack with Brandy Gathaga using head instead of fist and commit a guts. Just swing at 7 and cycle the guts, and that's actually like not nothing. Guts really does fit in the endgame deck because of your 4 head, and being able to choose to cycle with Brandy Gathaga is an upside that matters. Now, coming down to level 0 deck, it's pretty much the same deck. Guardians are pretty boring. You can see I'm running 45 automatic, 45 Thompson, and Enchanted Blade. I went down to a lower number of weapons once I got Stick to the Plan because I was more consistently drawing the cards that I did have. Oh, real quick, I have Emergency Cash level 2 in this deck. I want to quickly point out that in Guardians with Stick to the Plan, this is basically a 1 experience discount on students. Because in Guardians with Stick to the Plan, you always play Emergency Cash action 1, turn 1. So Studious, you would get to mulligan the 6th card, but with this, you're just drawing it, it's not quite as good. But this is basically getting you a Studious. It's really, really good in Guardians. And aside from that, aside from the weapon count changing as the deck got more consistent, the only thing here that's weird is Breach the Door. As I mentioned previously, I played alongside of a Clue Dropper Daryl. I don't think, you can see my Daryl video for more on this, that Daryl can run Clue Dropper and Difficulty 0. It doesn't all fit in the same deck. And as a consequence of that, he started off playing Difficulty 0 before rapidly transitioning into Clue Dropper. And in that early stage of the game, I was running Breach the Door to help enable Shed a Light, because that card is just insane, and it's a good way for a fighter to help out, since I'm not really able to get clues. But additionally, if I had a ton of extra time, if there wasn't much fighting at all, I could Breach the Door and then investigate with my 3 book, and that's pretty solid. Breach the Door, I think, is a card I'm probably currently underrating that's more generally good than I give it credit for, but it's definitely insane at level 0 with clue dropping, or not clue dropping, with difficulty 0 teammates, and it was worth running very easily for that. Coming back to the final deck, I probably should have been more worried about my 1 foot. I feel like the fact that it didn't affect me meaningfully is campaign dependent, and for instance, if I played for Forgotten Age, I would absolutely have been running, well, yeah, instead of On the Hunt, I'd be running You Handle this one in Forgotten Age. And in most lists, this should probably be You Handle this one. And I think at this point I've said most of what I want to say about Leo. Wait, no, one more thing. Hallowed Mirror is at its best in Leo because Leo has the most actions to play the cards from it. For you to get good value of Hallowed Mirror, you have to kill all the enemies, finish your job, and have actions left after you've done all your setup to play the Soothing Melodies. Leo DeLuca makes Leo Anderson the best at actually using Soothing Melody and makes him one of the more support-oriented fighters, and it's really, really nice. Now that I'm done with that, it's time for the spoiler warning. I've told you that I think really highly of Leo, I've told you why, I've told you the benefits. It's time to talk specifically about the penultimate scenario in Dream Eaters, the finale to Dreamside, where the gods dwell, and why I ran On the Hunt. On the Hunt is a fast event that you play when you would draw an encounter card during the Mythos phase. Instead, you search the top 9 cards of the encounter deck for an enemy, and you spawn it engaged with you instead of its normal spawn location, and you shuffle the encounter deck. If you cannot, you just draw the top card normally. At the end of Where the Gods Dwell, when you get to the second phase, you have several copies of Nyarlathotep shuffled into the deck, along with several copies of Whispering Chaos. And the way the game is supposed to be designed is you use an action to get clues, and then you use an action to spend the clues to draw hidden cards, and then you use an action to give the right hidden cards to the right people, and then the right people take the right Whispering Chaos to the right tower, and they use the test on that tower to deal with a Nyarlathotep in their hand. It's a whole lot of steps. On the Hunt skips them all. With On the Hunt, you search the top 9 cards of the encounter deck. It doesn't say non-elite anywhere on this. You pick up Nyarlathotep and you spawn him in your threat area. You didn't draw him. He was spawned engaged with you. It doesn't say draw him anywhere on this. So instead of going to your hand like he's supposed to, you just shoot him with the flamethrower and kill him, bypassing the entire mechanic of that scenario. A big part of why this note is here isn't just Daryl being insane, it is On the Hunt counterattacking the scenario, allowing me to skip one of the 3 Nyarlathoteps entirely. Well, not entirely, I had to spend a couple actions shooting with a flamethrower, but same thing. So yeah, On the Hunt is absolutely awesome. It's why I picked Leo to play Where the Gods Dwell. I had planned this well in advance, because anyone else would have to spend 2 experience, but Leo, who wants to run adaptable anyway, just gets to put them in because he's a rogue. And that's why I took Leo Dreamside. I'm really happy that On the Hunt worked. It was a really cool moment, and I'm really glad I did it. Anyways, that's it for now. I've been rather incoherent. I hope you enjoyed this brief rant about how Leo's actually awesome, and the counterattacking possible with On the Hunt. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, and I'd love to hear about any of your own weird counterattacks in the comments.